Okay, I got some Stephen A. Smith news. So apparently, Stephen A. Smith's dream of working alongside the Monday Night Football crew. Stephen A. Smith has always let this been known that he would like to host Monday Night Football because of his idol Howard Cosell was on that broadcast and in that franchise, and Stephen A. Smith just wants to dabble in a lot of other things that he's been wanting to do. Now, the Monday Night Football crew, it's been confirmed that not only that there are several people on that staff that just does not want to work with Stephen A. Smith. And basically, if you read the article, I'm gonna have the article listed down below. Some key red flags, and one of them is Stephen A. Smith being a diva. I just don't think a lot of people likes to be a partner or work alongside Stephen A. Smith because Stephen A. Smith thinks he's the bigger star in the room. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you look at the things that they tried to do with Stephen A. Smith and it didn't work out versus the things that they are working with Stephen A. Smith and it does work out, he clashes with different types of personalities. And I'm not going to go and explain to you guys the different personalities that he have clashed with. It just did not work out. But Stephen A. Smith works best when the show is centered around him. Look at First Take. First Take is literally his baby. He's the executive producer. He's the star of the show. All right. If you look at the personalities that they have on there, there's a reason why Shannon Sharpe doesn't do the show 5 days a week. All right. Because if they would have done the show 5 days a week, it would be like some tension, just like when Shannon Sharpe was trying to work alongside Skip Bayless 5 days a week. And you see how that turned out. All right. And if you look at who they have on First Take, Molly, they do have to deal with Molly interjecting and her points. And sometimes they just tolerate her points, but it's not like Holly is basically just killing. I mean, Molly is just killing the show. I don't know why I called her Holly, but anywho, Molly. And if you look at the other guests during the week, they sort of just coast back and sit back and allow Stephen A. Smith to freely go wherever he wants to go. And there's really little pushback on First Take when Stephen A. Smith is there. That's why when him and Monica McNutt got into a verbal sparring, that was viral because typically that does not happen on First Take. All right. When you look at the Stephen A. Smith show, his own baby, his own YouTube channel, it's just Stephen A. Smith and the staff. And that works very well for Stephen A. Smith. So when you look at these shows that centers around Stephen A. Smith, it works. Versus when you look at the shows that Stephen A. Smith has been on, and he has to share the responsibility and the stardom with them, it does not work out. And one in particular, I think a lot of people have forgot about this. Stephen A. Smith was supposed to be the new thing to NBA Countdown. It was supposed to be Stephen A. Smith, Jalen Rose, and Irvin Magic Johnson. And this was supposed to be the cast that was supposed to be the TNT inside the NBA killers. They were supposed to be the new big three with the star power and the names. And they were supposed to compete with Shaq, Kenny, and Ernie and Charles Barkley. And those three did not last that long. They barely last the season. And Stephen A. Smith occasionally shows his head on NBA Countdown, but he doesn't do it on a constant, consistent basis. Jalen Rose has already left ESPN. He's pursuing his endeavors. And Irvin Magic Johnson, he may occasionally come in, but he doesn't do it a lot. He doesn't have to. He's a millionaire. All right. So that's that with NBA Monday Night Countdown. I mean NBA Countdown. Now, when he had Max Kellerman, and this is why Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman would had some difficulties with their chemistry and their work relationship. Max Kellerman was not going to just let Stephen A. Smith just say what he wants to say with no pushback. Max Kellerman was holding his own, and that's why him and Max Kellerman couldn't work, because Max Kellerman was not going to be second fiddle. Max Kellerman felt like he is just as important, just as good, just as knowledgeable, and highly intelligent, just like Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith didn't read the room. Stephen A. Smith thought Max Kellerman was going to be a pushover, and when he started working with him, he quickly realized that Max Kellerman could be a problem. He could be a potential problem. He can be, in the same situation with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Skip Bayless, thought that he was going to be the big star. He was not going to have a lot of pushback from Shannon Sharpe, and it quickly changed. But with Skip Bayless, he basically handled it a little too late, and it fractured their relationship on and offset. Okay, and then the rest they say is history. But when you look at if you look at the places they have put Stephen A. Smith on different shows, it just does not work. But when you put Stephen A. Smith in an environment and in a show that centers around him, it works. Okay. Now, another thing in the article, it says that a lot of people that work at Monday Night NFL, I don't know why I keep saying, there's so many abbreviations to all these shows. Monday Night Football, the reason why, another reason why they don't want to do it is because he's not a football guy. All right. Stephen A. Smith, I do believe Stephen A. Smith watches football. I really do believe it. But Stephen A. Smith isn't as knowledgeable in football like he is in basketball. Stephen A. Smith does not have the vast connections like he do in the basketball world. There are still to this day, there are owners communicating with Stephen A. Smith. There are agents still communicating with Stephen A. Smith. There are players, former and current, that still communicates with Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A. Smith has a respectable relationship and a communication line to the NBA. However, when you talk about the NFL, it's a completely different a completely different environment. I don't think Stephen A. Smith has those type connections. Plus, Stephen A. Smith is not as knowledgeable in the NFL like he is in the NBA. He's more knowledgeable in the NBA. He's more knowledgeable in boxing. Okay, we all can't be great in everything. All right. I think he's casual. He's knowledgeable from a casual fan perspective. All right. And he's careful on how he articulates what's going on in the National Football League. He's not that reckless. But when you look at the guys on Monday Night Football, they're going like, he's just not a football guy. And that's fair. I feel like that's in bounds. Okay. Plus, I do feel like Ryan Clark, who has worked with Stephen A. Smith on First Take, and the others there, they have had experiences with Stephen A. Smith, and they have worked with Stephen A. Smith. They've been around Stephen A. Smith on and off the set, and they know, and people like Ryan Clark and others know the real Stephen A. Smith, and they know sometimes Stephen A. Smith can be very difficult to work with, like nearly impossible. But I do feel like I'm not saying Stephen A. Smith doesn't know the NFL, and I do feel like Stephen A. Smith, in the national, a lot of things Stephen A. Smith say in the NBA, even though it's I feel like players and organizations don't like what Stephen A. Smith says. Stephen A. Smith has a very great relationship and a reputation in the NBA, and so they just let him just do him. Similar to what Charles Barkley, he's on that Charles Barkley level as far as the NBA goes. That they'll basically say, oh, that's just Stephen A. Smith being Stephen A. Smith. However, I think Stephen A. Smith rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Pause. He ruffles a lot of feathers in the National Football League. It's just a different environment and a different vibe in the National Football League. It's so prestigious. It's got this like military type setting. And so on the outside looking in, when you ridiculing someone or when you're trying to make fun of an organization, it just, they're not just, particularly in the NFL, some owners, some agents, some players don't like that, okay? Because they treat the shield to the utmost respect. And to them, in their mind, they're thinking you're tarnishing the shield. You're not helping the brand, you're hurting the brand. With the NBA, Stephen A. Smith can say good, bad, or whatever about whatever team, whatever organization, whatever player, and it's like water off a duck's back. They'll just say, oh, that's just Stephen A. Smith being Stephen A. Smith. So, I do understand Stephen A. Smith has this wish and this dream that he wants to be on Monday Night Football. And then plus, I do feel like the big figureheads like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they don't want to share the spotlight with a Stephen A. Smith. They know Stephen A. Smith will take all the air out of the room, all the camera time away from those two gentlemen. And look, you got the best on Monday Night Football. You got Troy Aikman, you got Joe Buck, you got Ryan Clark, you got I forgot I forgot that guy's name. Anyway, you got the sidelines, you got the pregame, the postgame. You got everyone in place for Monday Night Football to be very successful. And ever since they announced that Troy Aikman and Joe Buck was going to be broadcasting Monday Night Football, they're going to be the new host of Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football attendance has gone up. The ratings has gone up, all right? So having a Stephen A. Smith is not going to mean a hill of beans to a lot of people, all right? Two, is a different audience. I do feel like in the morning time audience for First Take is going to be vastly different than the audience that's watching Monday Night Football. I'm just saying. So I do understand Stephen A. Smith dreams and aspirations of being on Monday Night Football. Maybe they can work out something where he's there. Maybe they just do one show a year with them, and give him his opportunity to just do it once a year. Maybe they can tolerate him enough, or maybe just have him on a game that's is two teams nobody really don't care about, and then hearing Stephen A. Smith's respective. Maybe Stephen A. Smith is at home and they got him on a live stream. And then that's another thing, they got the Manning cast that's also contributing to Monday Night Football. So I just don't know how to fit Stephen A. Smith there when it's already successful. You got the people in place, and just adding Stephen A. Smith there is not going to do any, it's going to do more harm than good, in my humble opinion, all right? But yeah, that's what the article read. I'm going to have the article down below. You can read it for yourself. And I shared my opinions about it. And let's just say this again. I'm not, the stuff I said, I'm not hating on Stephen A. Smith. I'm just pointing out things I noticed about Stephen A. Smith. And like I said, if we was talking about basketball, then it's a no-brainer to put Stephen A. Smith there. But or if we're talking about boxing, yeah, I can understand that. But football, it just seems like Stephen A. Smith would be a little bit misplaced there. So, guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.